Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Sai. Now, Shalom Aleichem, it's Tuesday here. We are recording on TorahAnytime.com and also Kol Haloshon at the same time. We're doing Tuesday in Parshas Chukas. For those people who did not listen, we're only on once a week on Torah Anytime. You can see me on TorahAnytime.com. We have about 90 or 100 of them on. But we do Kol Haloshon every single day. So now we're doing it together. It's Tuesday, we're at Shlishi and Parshas Chukas. Chukas is about the Paro Aduma, the red cow. So in some Sidurim, Chumashim, that were printed years ago and even recently, people who don't know the English language called it the red heifer. Well, that means they haven't never been on a farm even one day, because a heifer is a baby cow, and a Paro Aduma is over 3 years old, and a heifer is an egel, a little less than 1 year old. So it's not about a heifer. A heifer is a new, freshly born calf. We're talking about a full, mature, big cow over 3 years old. Paro is a cow, and a par is a bull. We're talking about a female, a Paro Aduma, that's over 3 years old. And this is the subject of Paro Aduma, the red cow that doesn't have any black hairs on it, maybe one, but never two. And out of the millions and billions of red hairs, can't be more than one black hair, and you take this, which won't exist until Mashiach comes, you'll find this red cow, red, not dark brown. You go to New Jersey, you see all the brown cows you want, and it's not a black cow. It's what do you call it? It's all Angus. It's not a Holstein. It's not a Jersey. It's a red. It's not fire engine red, but it's red like burgundy, a red cow, and you burn it. You take the ashes. You pulverize the ashes, mix it with spring water coming out of a spring or a lake or a river or an ocean, as opposed to rainwater. You have to use mayim chaim because it's a carbon chatos. It's going to atone for your sins of getting tomei by touching a dead body. Every single Jew in the world today for the last 2,000 years is tomei because they come from a human being that comes from a human being that comes from a human being that touched the dead body, who touched somebody, who touched somebody, who touched somebody, who touched a dead body. So everybody's tomei makes. Even if a woman goes to the mikveh, she cleanses herself from nidus, but she does not cleanse herself from tumas meis. And therefore, if you're tomei meis, you can't go on a harabayas, and you can't eat korbanos. So if you do, you're chayv kores. Anyhow, so the first part of the chukas talked about the Paro Aduma, and it has to be perfect, and no mum on it, and no yoke everyone on it, and they take it outside of the camp, and they kill it, and they collect the blood, and they sprinkle the blood towards the Mishkan, and in the Midbar, outside of the camp meant 12 mil, which is 9 miles, and in Eretz Yisrael, outside of the camp means on Har HaZeisim, half a mile away, or maybe a mile away, and they have to face the front door of the Beis HaMikdash and sprinkle blood in that direction. And then they take this carbon chatos, which the Paro Aduma is, and they mix it with spring water, mayim chaim, and you sprinkle it on a person on the 3rd and the 7th day, if he wants to come to the old city, and he wants to eat karbanos. Because if he wants to come to the old city and eat karbanos and he's tomei, he's chayiv kores. And anyone who goes to on the Har HaBayis today is chayiv kores, because there's not one single Jew in the last 2,000 years who went up on the Har HaBayis who has Yiras Shemayim, and those renegades, so-called rabbis, they will go up on the Har HaBayis. They're modern, they're not B'nai Torah, they're not traditional, because they went up in the Har HaBayis and they love the Makom HaMikdash, you know. So how come Rabbi Shach and Rabbi Chazon Ish and all the 50,000 tzaddikim that have been there in the last 60 years don't have any love for the Har HaBayis? How come? So there, Rambam says Yechayv Kores, Ramban says Yechayv Misa, and you can't go up there. And even if you wear rubber shoes, it's not Mekabel Tumah, and you know where to walk, but you're Chota Machdias or Rabbim, because other people don't know exactly where you're walking, which may be mutter, because we know that the outside section there of the Har HaBayis is Machin Leviyah, and the Tomei Meis can go there, but the average person doesn't know, so you're misleading the ignorant, the fools, and because you yourself are a chota or machtias or rabbim. No yorei shemayim, not one in the world ever went up there in the last 2,000 years, because we're forbidden to go up there. Anyhow, If Mashiach comes tomorrow and you want to eat a carbon, bring carbon chatas for your averos, or carbon, you want to bring a olo or a shlomim, you can't do that unless you get expiated by the waters of the Parah Aduma, which is ashes of the Parah Aduma and the Mayim Chaim, and that takes 7 days. They sprinkle the water on you on the 3rd and the 7th day. So millions of Jews will have to be in Yerushalayim, the old city, on the eat the carbon Pesach, got to be there at least 7 days before, and maybe a couple other 100,000 people also want to eat the carbon Pesach, or they have to be there 7 days before, because you have to have the blood sprinkled, the water ash combination sprinkled on you on the 3rd and 7th day. You have to be there 7 days before, and maybe there's a couple million people that also want that. So you better come 14 days before if you want even a chance. So you have the 2-day forced vacation every year, because you must eat the carbon Pesach. You don't have to come on Sukkot and Shavuos, but if you do, it's your Ola Regel, but you got to come Erev Pesach. So how could you come 7 days before when you have to be Tahar at least 7 days before? So you have to come 14 days before. And you and a couple million people. So you see, it's a very big problem. Sure, there was hundreds of Kohanim, and they took the ashes of the Parah Aduma, sprinkled, spread it over hundreds of Kohanim, and people came in a row. They probably one sprinkled to on 100 people at a time. I don't know how it works, but you need the Parah Aduma sprinkled on you, otherwise you're Tomei Maze and you're Chaim Koros if you come even to the place, and if you eat carbon, any carbon. So we're up to, it tells you how they did it. They took the parah and burnt it up, and the Eifer, the ashes, they smashed it down to afar, to dust, and they mixed it with spring water, and they mixed with it a red piece of wool, and some azo, some hyssop, and some cedar wood, and they tied it up with the red string, and they threw it into the Parah Aduma while it was burning. And these are all atonements for the Egel, because the Egel was a little calf, and the Parah is a big cow, that the mother come and clean up the chet of the little one. In fact, it says, Zos Chukas HaTorah, this is the chuk of the Torah, when we know there's at least 7 chukim in the Torah. Parah Aduma is 1, Egel Arufa is 2, Yibum is 3, Shatnez is 4, Basa B'chalav is 5, Klei Midyan is 6, and Azazel is 7. We don't understand how these things work. Parah Aduma, you take a red cow and you burn it up, you take the ashes, mix it with living waters, that takes away Tumah. And Egla Rufa, you have to find a dead man in the field, a Jew, and you don't know who killed him. So you want to take revenge against the killer, so you kill the Egel, you take an Egel, less than a year old, and you chop his head off with an axe. And that sort of makes believe it's like you have taken revenge for the man that killed this man. Isn't that's like a chok? It's very hard to understand that. And Yibum, you have a sister-in-law. If your husband, your brother divorces her, you can never marry her. You're Chai Kores. But if he dies without children, you don't have to marry her. She's your wife automatically. The moment she dies, she is your wife. You don't need a ksuva. She is your wife. The only way to get rid of her is give her chalitza or do yibum, marry her. Isn't that something? Yesterday it was Chai Kores, and today she's your wife automatically without any action. That's a chok. Then there's shatnez. Wool you can wear and linen you can wear, but wool and linen you cannot wear together. And then there's basa b'chalav. You can eat basa, you can eat b'chalav, but you can't eat them together. That's a chok. Then the clay midyan, the kalim of a guy, after you kashed it with fire or with hot water, it's still not good enough. You have to tovel them. That's a pella. And then there's Azazel, this one goat on Yom Kippur. You throw him off a cliff and he atones for everybody's sin. These are chukim. So why do you say Zos Chukas HaTorah when there's 7? Answer is, this is one chok that even the wisest man didn't know. Shlomo HaMelech was a chacham mikol adam, and he couldn't understand this. He said in Koheles, "V'hi rechoko mimeni." Omar echkma, I said I want to be wise. V'hi, but that one din, the Parah Aduma, rechoko mimeni is too far away from me. V'hi rechoko is gematria Parah Aduma. He couldn't understand it, but Moshe Rabbeinu did understand it. which means a chok does have a reason, but it evades most people. But wise men do understand chukim, why they are that way. It's in the world of nister. It's Kabbalah, it's secrets of the Torah that the average man doesn't get, but the wise men do get it. And Moshe Rabbeinu understood while Shlomo didn't understand. How is that possible? But it said Shlomo's chacham mikol adam. And he didn't understand it. And Moshe's adam. But Moshe did understand it, says Chazal. Answer, Moshe is more than an adam. He's a half malach. How do you know? He's more powerful than a malach. When he went up to get the Torah, the malachim said to Hashem, don't give it to them, they're going to mess it up. So Hashem told Moshe, give him an answer. So he said to the malachim, you need the Torah? Why? What's it saying in the Torah? Kavod es avicha v'zimecha. To malachim, you got parents? Lo signo, don't steal. Are you guys in business? Zochar Yom Shabbos. Keep Shabbos. You people work, you have to remember about Shabbos. Lo sirtzach, you kill anybody? Lo signo, you steal? You go to court and swear falsely? So the Malachim said, you're right. Hashem, he's right. Give him the Torah. So Moshe got the Torah. That's why he defeated the Malachim in debate. And also Moshe fasted, he was in heaven 40 days, 3 times without food and water. So he's Chatzi Malach and Chatzi Adam. Therefore he could understand it. Has nothing to do with intellect. Has to do with Kedusha Saguf, says the Mayan Beis HaSheva. Your body is so holy, it's not any more human. You're unable to understand it. It has nothing to do with intellectual. It has to do with Kedusha Saguf. Anyhow, so Moshe understood it. Now we get over to burning up the carbon chatas, and then we get to Shlishi, because today is Tuesday. Zos HaTorah, this is the law. Adam ki yomus v'ohel. If a man dies, if a Jewish man dies in a tent, then everybody in the tent is automatically Tomei, because you get Tomei by the airspace. You're Tomei automatically. So a Kohen can't be a doctor, because he can't be in a hospital, because there's dead people there. And a Kohen can never get Tomei. From a maze, you're not allowed to. So if you're a doctor, you can't be a Kohen. And if you're a Kohen, you can't be a doctor. And if you're a Kohen and a doctor, you're not living right. It's against God's wishes. So I met a man years ago. He says, I'm a Baal Tshuva. No one ever told me about this. I'm a doctor and a Kohen. I said, you can you can be a doctor. What are you, a doctor of computer science or of math? What? No, I'm a medical doctor. Oh, well, then you can't go to the hospital anymore. Well, I have to go there twice a week, 3 times a week, visit my patient. I said, you're not allowed to go to a hospital anymore. You don't like this? Take it up with the author. I didn't write this. Ask some other rabbi, any rabbi in the world. Well, if I see patients in my office that may drop dead, I said, well, that's probably not going to happen. But in a hospital, there's dead people all the time. You cannot, as a doctor, as a Kohen, you can't even go to your father's funeral. You can't even be in the same room with the mace that when they talk about your father and they're making a hesped. You can't go to the cemetery. A Kohen cannot touch a mace or go into the cemetery or be a doctor. So a Kohen has Kedusha, special Kedusha that we don't have. Therefore, Adam ki yomus ba'ohel, the man who dies in a tent, kol ha'bo'el, anyone who comes into the tent, kol ha'shei ba'ohel, anyone who's in the tent, yitma, he's tomei 7 days. And everything in the keli, if it's a pottery keli, if it's inside, it's tummy. If it's sealed, the stuff inside is not tummy. Now we learned all that, and then you have to have the ashes and the water of the paraduma. And there was only 3 paradumas in the history of the world. They all took some of the ashes from the original paraduma of Moshe Rabbeinu. And when Mashiach comes, we're going to find that original ashes, and we're going to make another paraduma. You can have a few ashes in 10,000 gallons of water. Doesn't say what the proportion. Then you sprinkle that on people and toward their direction. So you can retire 50,000 people a day. But that's up to the Kohen Gadol. They know how to do that. Not Kohen Gadol. Any Kohen can do that. And so they have to be sprinkled on the 3rd and the 7th day. And if you don't get cleansed on the 3rd and the 7th day, you'll never be cleansed. So there's a a humorous, not a humorous thing, a mashal. A man once told me many years ago, in B'derech Mashal, he says, if you don't do tshuva by the 3rd, means the 30th year, then the tshuva at the 70th year is nothing. He's a Torah alatomi b'yom shlishi b'yom shvi. The chito he's cleansed b'yom shvi from his tumah. And then it says v'yobo b'nei Yisrael ha'edo midbar sin. They came to midbar sin. Now wait a minute. Now what I'm going to tell you now is very strange. It says Miriam died here, where we're coming to. Miriam died in the 39th year, and the Parah Adumah was given in the 2nd year. Right here, in Chukas, in Shlishi. V'yobo b'nei Yisrael el kol ha'edo, the whole community, midbar sin, but it really has a name, midbar Sinai, but it has 3 names, midbar Chorev, midbar Sin, midbar Sinai. Sin because they became a mitsuyonim, excellent, and it's called midbar Sinai because the sneh of the thorn bush, and it's called midbar Chorev because it's a desolate place. Toma Shom Miriam died there. She was 126 years old. That means she was 3 years older than Aaron. He was 123, and she was 6 years older than Moshe was 120. And so she died in the 1st month of the 2nd year. They weren't even out of Mitzrayim 12 months, but it's the 2nd calendar year. And so she died 39th year in the Midbar at age 126. And this Parah Adumah was given to them on the 2nd calendar year. Means the second they came out of Mitzrayim in Nisan 15. The next Nisan 1 they dedicated the Mishkan. Nisan 2 Miriam died. Nisan 2 the Parah Adumah was given to them. So that means to say by getting cleansed of the Parah Adumah from Tumas Meis. The day before that they were Tomei. They just built a Mishkan. It took them 6 months. So the whole Mishkan is Tomei. Because the law of Parah Adumah, cleansing yourself from touching a dead body, and everybody touches somebody who touched somebody who touched somebody who touched the dead body. So they built the Mishkan in the state of Tumah. Because after they came out of Mitzrayim, 7 weeks later we got the Torah, Shuas. That was 7 weeks, 49 days. 40 days after that, they were dancing around the Egel. Moshe smashed it. That was Shivos B'Tammuz. And then the Meraglim, they sent the Meraglim, they came back, they said, the giants there, we can't get there. That was Tisha B'Av, 3 weeks later. And God said 39 days in Israel, you don't like the country. Punishment, 39 years. So that happened in the very first year, the Tzias Mitzrayim and Kriyas Yam Suf, and the Meraglim and Korach and the Slav and the Mon. It all happened the very first year. The 2nd year was a few other things. The 39th year was Misa's Miriam. Here they put it together. The dedication of the Mishkan was on the 1st of Nisan. On the 2nd of Nisan they were given this law about Parah Adumah. That means the day before they were all tummy. The whole Mishkan is tummy. Why didn't God give them this thing of Parah Adumah months before so they could metahir themselves and work on the base of Mikdash and everything would be tahar, because everything that's made out of metal or cloth is tummy if you're tummy. So the whole place is tummy. Because the Parah Adumah was given on Beis Nisan, and they dedicated the 2nd year on Aleph Nisan. So everything is tummy. Now I'm going to tell you a gigantic little secret. You know why nothing in the Mishkan was Tomei? Because you're not Tomei until God said you're Tomei. The Metzius, the existence, didn't happen yet. You're not Tomei until God says you're Tomei. You know what that means? You have a new type of Metzius. Let me give you an example. In legal talk, it's called legal fiction. It doesn't exist in the real world, but in the world of legality, it exists. Like in the Gemara, sometimes you say, die like this, and then like this. So the Gemara says, well, let's say like this. Well, like this, okay, it could work. But what you're suggesting is almost impossible. But in the world of logic, it works. Let me give you an example. You know, if you want to carry in a private domain on Shabbos and you're outside of the house, you have to set up an Erev. So an Erev can be made in a Carmelis, let's say a desert, or an ocean, or a jungle, where it's open, but not many people there. It's called a Carmelis. Let's say you go out in a field, or a midbar, and you want to camp there on Shabbos, and you want to carry around your campsite that you can't carry out of your tent. Unless you set up an Erev. So you take a pole here, a lechi, and the one over here 100 feet away, and one over here 100 feet away, and one over here, and it's 10 tefachim minimum, 10 of these, 40 inches, 36 inches, up to your waist. You bang it in the ground, tight, and you take a wire or a string across the top, and you connect it to this pole, this pole, this pole, this pole. That's called a korah, and the four are called lechi. Now you just created a building with walls and a roof you can carry inside. There's no walls, there's no roof. And so yes, there is walls and there is roof. It's called the Numatzius. It's called Suras HaPesach. It's a private domain. But there's no walls. Yes, there is. For Halach, it's walls. That's a Numatzius. It's a private domain. Because Hashem said. That's why. A woman is Tomei Nida, can't sleep with her, it's Kores. She jumps in the mikveh, she comes out, everything's mutter. What happened? So the Gemara says the water is not matar you. It's because Hashem said so. That's why it's matar you. Matar the woman. It's a numatzias. You have a milk meal, you wash out your mouth, you eat a piece of meat, mutter. You have a meat meal, wash out your mouth, you can't eat milk. Because that's the way halach is. If you think about it, you're a scholar, you understand it makes sense, all of it makes sense. This way it's legal, this way it's illegal. That's the way it is if you think about it. Everything in the Torah makes sense. That's why your Torah Jews are religious, because it makes sense. It all makes sense. Like, I teach math in yeshiva high schools in the afternoon, so I teach math and they tell me, Rabbi, look, the calculator's wrong, look at the calculator. Calculator's never wrong. You didn't punch it in right. And you explain to me, he says, oh, I see. Instead of 34, I put in .34. I said, yeah, that's right. That makes all the difference in the world. Anyhow, so the Yidden who got the dinim of Parah Adumah on the second day of Nisan of the second year, which is really not 1 year, but calendar year, second year, but it wasn't even 365 days since he left Mitzrayim, because they left Mitzrayim on the 15th of the year before. They got the din of Parah Adumah on the second day of Nisan, so the whole Mishkan that was made, put up in Tumah, was no Tumah at all, because there's no Tumah till Hashem said there's such a thing as Tumah. And there was no such thing of cleansing yourself from Tumah's mace until Hashem said there's such a thing. That's a new Metzias. So if she died on the 39th year, so why did you put this together with the second year? Because the Torah is not a history book or a mitzvah book. If it would be a mitzvah book, they wouldn't give the first mitzvah 15 sedras after the beginning in bow. They put it in braces. So this is not a mitzvah book. Maybe it's a history book. No, a history book would not let you meet the main character of the Jewish people, Avram, on the age of 70. Don't you think you should find out when he was born? Everything about him. Moshe Rabbeinu would meet him at 80. It's not a history book. The Torah is not a history book. And it's not a mitzvah book. It is a book of Musar and ethics and values. Things are not in chronological order. They're put together here, Misas, Miriam, and the Parah Adumah for a reason, an ethical Musar reason. To let you know that just like Parah Adumah is machaper for a person's sin of getting tamei, maybe it's not a sin, but it is tamei, and you can't eat korbanos when you're in a state of depression. That's what tumah is. So you have to get out of that depression. And if you touch a dead body, it takes 7 days. And you touch other things, only takes 1 day. But to get out of this state, it takes 7 days to work off the depression. And that's called tumah. Tumah means opaque. The rays of God does not penetrate your heart. Tahara means it's transparent. The rays of God goes right in your heart. You feel connected. So therefore, the Miriam died, and the Misas of a tzaddikim is mechaper, like a carbon chatos, which this is also mechaper for the sin or the depression of touching a mace. That's why you put these two things together. Now, just because the tzaddik dies, I get kapara? No way. If a tzaddik dies and you go to the levaya and you listen to the hesped and you cry because such a great person left, and one day you're going to go that way because no one ever survived this life, and you do tshuva and you mored demos, you cry for the great tzaddik, and you hear words of his greatness or her greatness, that misa tzaddikim is mechaper, cleans you from your averos, just like paraduma cleans you. All right. So Vatoma Sham Miriam, she was buried there. She dared, but Vatoma Sham Miriam, Vatikov Sham, she was buried there. Well, Lo Hoyamayim Lo Edo, and there was no water for the community because the water came because of Miriam, the Mon came because of Moshe, and the Anane Hakovod, the protecting clouds, came because of Aaron. So Miriam died here on Rosh Chodesh and Nisan, 10th day of Nisan. And Aaron died on Rosh Chodesh Av, about 4 months later. Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, about 4 months later. And Moshe died at the end of the year, Ador, 8 months after that. So all three of them died in the 39th year. So, there was no water for the aid of Ikalu al Moshe, and they ganged up on Moshe of El Aaron. But Al Aaron, on Aaron. But Yorav Ha'am, and the Rishoyim, Am is Erev Rab, the Rishoyim, in Moshe. They said, V'lu Govanu, we wish we would have died. Bigva Achenu, like our brothers died. Lefnei Hashem, before God, during those 39 years. All different deaths. Much better than dying of thirst. But Loma Sem, why have you brought us as Kahal Hashem, God, this community of God? El HaMidbar, to this Midbar. Hazed, this horrible Midbar. Lamusham, to die there throughout these last 39 years. Anachnu Virena, us and our cattle. Loma Heli Sonim in Mitzrayim. Why didn't you take us out of Mitzrayim? Lahavio Sonu, to bring us al Makom Arozeh, to this bad place. 39 years later, they're still left with the old complaints. Lo Mokom Zera, it's not a place for seeding. A desert? Ute'ena, it's not a place for the grains, the 5 grains, wheat, barley, oats, spelt, and rye, Chita, Saora, and the other 3. And it's not a place for Te'ena figs. It's not a place for geffen, for grapevines. It's not a place for rimon, for pomegranates. Mayan ayin nishtos, besides no water to drink. They mentioned the zera. All the 5 grains are contained in wheat and barley. Chita, Saora. But then there's 5 other fruits. Why they only mention 3? Te'ena, it's not a place for figs in the desert. Or geffen, pomegranates. Geffen is wine. Rimon, pomegranates. Why didn't they mention zayis, olives? And tamarim, figs? Dates. You know why? Because you ever been in a desert? You ever been in the Negev? Zaysim, olive trees grow in the desert. And so do tamarim, dates, palms. But the others need water. Water. Yava Moshe and Aaron, and Moshe and Aaron came Mipnei HaKahol because of the crowd after 39 years. El Pesach Olam Moed, to the doorway of the Olam Moed, because they wanted to kill him. They wanted to kill Moshe, the mob. The Yiplal name, they fell on their face. They figured, Hashem, we must be failures. If they won, after 39 years, they have no appreciation. There's nothing we can say to defend them. They 39 years, they're still up to the old tricks. A year Kvod Hashem El Aleim, and the honor of God appeared to them and paralyzed the mob. They couldn't touch Moshe. Wow. Look at this. Lo hoyo mayim lo eido. Eido spelled start with an ayin. And by Yorev ha'am, the people, the Erev Rav, the Rishoyim, complained against Moshe. Starts with an ayin. Lom havosu as kahal. This community starts with a kuf. And Lom ha'elosanu Yisrael havi, bring us, osanu, aleph. You know what you're trying to say here? Ha'edo, hey. Is ayin. Kahal is a kuf. No, Eido starts with an ayin. Starts with an ayin. Kahal starts with a kuf. And Osanu starts with an aleph. You know what that adds up to? 241. 2 and 4 is 6 and 1 is 7. 7 is Chaye Olam Hazeh, Gashmias. All they're thinking about is their gashmias. Don't you think God knows that you don't have water? Don't you know He'll take care of you? Don't you know that you're above simple physical living? The last 40 years in a desert without food, how did you survive? You're still on that low level. This was not the majority of the people. 95% were Torah Jews. They're always the troublemakers. You know, in a school, 5% of the bad students take us up 95% of the time of the principal and the administration, because they're the troublemakers. Always like that. And we're responsible for every Jew. Now we have a tremendous question. She died and there's no mayim for the Eido, because we know that the schus of Miriam brought the water, and Moshe's schus brought the man, and Aaron's schus brought the clouds. I want to ask you a $64,000 question. We just said, the Gemara told us, that Misad Sadikim is mechaper for your Averos. Therefore, if she died, Miriam, why don't they have water? Because Misad Sadikim is mechaper for all your Averos, and therefore the schus of her lives on, even though she's not here. Why wasn't it Lo Hayamayim Leido? I thought Misad Sadikim was mechaper for your Averos, and you're sin free. They wouldn't have complained. So Misa Sadiq is mechaper for Yaveros. They wouldn't complain. They would have water, even if she's dead. Why didn't they have any water? Misa Sadiq is mechaper. And you don't need her. There would be water without her. Because Misa Sadiq is mechaper for Yaveros, and therefore, you're on a high madrego. Answer is, if the water stopped for 1 day, they should be quiet. And 2 days. We're talking about 3.5 million people in the desert, you know what I mean? It's easy for us here in New York to talk like that. We have rain, we got a faucet. They were in Madrid, they had Moshe Rabbeinu. They saw the Kriyas Yamsuf. They saw Matan Torah. They heard Hashem's voice. They saw the 10 Makos in Mitzrayim. They ate man. Lechem min hashemayim. Why are you opening your mouth if you don't have water? Don't you think maybe God knows about this and He'll take care of you? He was testing you. You failed the test. Yes, Misa Sadiq is mechaper if you are madrega. But if you're in not a madrega, Misa thing is nothing. They failed the test. 5% of the people maybe. Not too many. The Yorav Ha'am and Moshe, they ganged up on Moshe, and they said, why did you bring us to this horrible place? And then the Aaron Hashem appeared there, and Moshe would have been killed. Now we get to Shlishi, because today's Tuesday, Yadaber, Hashem al Moshe Lemor, first time in 38 years. The Ebenezer says God never spoke to Moshe ever in the Midbar, except the first year and the last year. Never in the 38 years in between. The first year, I told you everything happened. The Matan Torah, got out of Mitzrayim, Kriyas Yamsuf, Matan Torah. That was the first year. The second year, when you start moving away from Har Sinai, going to Eretz Yisrael, had Meraglim, you had Korach, you had the Slav, you had all these things. And the Mapilim, the stubborn people who want to go to Eretz Yisrael without Hashem, without the Torah, without the Mishkan, without Moshe. These are the Jewish nationalists who want Israel without Kedusha. They got smashed to bits. The Mapilim. They're living in Afel, or darkness, Aleph, Pei, Lamed. I know Ayin, Pei, Lamed is the root, but you can switch Ayin for Aleph for drasha purposes. It's called it's called phonetic relationships, not grammatical. Phonetic relationship. Then Chazam Shafol Hirsch and others say they lived in Afel, or darkness. They didn't understand that Eretz Yisrael, but those giants, you're never going to make it unless Hashem helps you. Eretz Yisrael today, the last 60 years, you're not surviving unless Hashem is giving you a miraculous hand from heaven. Otherwise, you never make it. You're outnumbered over there in Israel, 100 to 1. And you won all the wars. Because Hashem loves Klal Yisrael. The country, the Medina is not religious. We know all about that. Hashem still loves Klal Yisrael. Look at this. He let him win all the wars. And otherwise, if there wouldn't be, we can't say what couldn't be, but The state there, if it wouldn't be a state, the Arabs would come in and kill everybody there. Yes, including the Turkite. That's right. If you don't believe it, they kill people on television. They're savages. They're Pera Adam, the Malach told the mother of Ishmael. He's not a bad man. He's a Pera Adam. Undeveloped man. Some people are bad men. They're not men. They're Pera Adam. They're not fully developed. It says in Onkelos, they are Pera Adam. Mori Ba'anosha. They rebel against society. It says in Targum, it's right there in Inspirations. That's called the terrorists. It's a different bria. Different bria. So therefore, if you don't understand that, you don't understand anything. So Hashem helps us, and there were times in Tanakh when they had wicked kings, terrible kings, Rishoyim kings, but God gave them great tzedakah, and they won all the wars because the people were tzaddikim. Anyhow, Yidaber Hashem on Moshe the first time in 38 years. Says the Eben Ezra, Kachaz Amata, take the staff. They're about to kill you, at the mob, right? Kachaz Amata, take the staff. Mahakalesa Edom, gather the whole community. Atav Aaron, you and Aaron, Achicha, your brother. He debarred to Melasela, speak to the rock. Lay Nahum in front of them. But no son Maimov, it'll produce water. It'll give water. So say so, Lahamayim and Osel, you'll bring out water from a rock. Ishkis, and you will water as Eira, the community of Esbiram, there are millions of cattle. They had millions. How do you know they had millions? Because after 39 years, at the almost beginning of 40th year, 2.5 Shvatim come to our Moshe and said, listen, Eretz Yisrael is not big enough. We saw some nice land here on the east bank in Jordan. We want that instead. So Moshe said, okay, I'll give it to you. All the way up from Hermon, all the way down to Eilat. The whole eastern bank for 2.5 Shvatim. 2.5 Shvatim needed their own country. The other 9.5 Shvatim could manage inside Eretz Yisrael, Eretz Canaan. Because they had so much cattle, the 2.5 Shvatim, they needed their own country. So Moshe killed Og, Melech HaBashan, and his brother Sichon, and all the nations on the right side, thousands, and they took up the whole, it's about 250 miles from the Hermon down to Eilat, on the right side of the Yarden. The whole Golan, the Bashan, all the way down. What's today Jordan, and what's the beginning of Saudi Arabia, all that was given to 2.5 Shvatim. They must have had a lot of cattle. So, had to have a lot of water to feed them, to drink them. Yikach Moshe Zamate. Moshe took the staff, Lefnei Hashem, that was inside the Aron in the Kodesh Kodashim for 39 years. Kasher Tzivo, like he was commanded, and he held it up. That was the Aaron's staff that budded into almonds, which means these people are challenging authority. They want to kill Moshe and Aaron. They let him in the country. They're going to die of thirst. So he's supposed to hold up that staff and show them the staff. Let them show that God is watching. Yikach Moshe Zamatim Lefnei Hashem, Kasher Tzivohu, like he was commanded. V'yakilu Moshe V'Aaron Kohol. He got all the people together. El Pnei Hasel, in front of the rock, some big boulder. He said, Shimano Hamorim, listen to me, you rebels. Amin Hasel Hazeh Nosir Lechamayim. You think I can just take out water from any rock? Has to be a special rock. Miriam is dead. We got to find the real rock. Her rock. V'Yora Moshe. So he says, you think I can take water out of any rock? Or you think I can get water out of this rock? Of course not. It's going to be a nace what you're going to see. So he spoke to the rock many times, but it didn't work. Hashem said, and it didn't work. Because 40 years ago, a bit earlier, Hashem told him to take a tzur, a flint rock, which is very hard, and take the matzah and tap it, hit it, and the rock will split open and water will come. And that's what he did 40 years ago. Now he comes to a selah, which is very soft. You don't have to touch it. All you do is speak to it. So Moshe spoke to it and nothing happened. He did it many times. Then he thought maybe 40 years ago, Hashem told me to hit the tzur, but this is not a tzur, it's a selah, a sandstone. So he took the staff and he tapped it a couple of times. A few drops of water came out. He tapped it again, a little stream came out. He tapped it again, boom, big gusher came out. So he whacked it a few times. And then Tremendous water came out. Yom Moshe, Moshe's Yoda picked up his hand. Yach! He bashed into the cellar. But Mateo Pamayim twice. The Yesim Mayim Rabin, tremendous amount of water came. A taste ha'edah, and he let the people drink of Iram and their cattle. It came out into 12 channels. Wherever the Shvatim were in 12 camps. Every channel went to that camp. Tremendous miracle, right? That was a tremendous miracle. Kiddush Hashem, right? Yes, and it was a tremendous public Chilul Hashem. And for which Moshe and Aaron had to die. Yom Hashem or Moshe, Bel Aaron. Yan, because. Lo hamantavi, you don't believe in me. Lahagdi sheni, to make me holy. Le'ene b'nei Yisrael, in front of the b'nei Yisrael. Lo chen, therefore. Lo sobiu es el ha'aretz, you're not going to bring this nation into that country. Asher nosati lehem, that I gave to them. To them and not to you. These are the waters of strife, of fighting, of arguments. You called them rebels, you yelled at them, you got angry, and you lost your temper, you hit the rock. Hashem rov b'nei Yisrael Hashem. The b'nei Yisrael were fighting with Hashem. I know they used you, but they meant me. And God sanctifies His name there by not letting Moshe and Aaron get away with anything. There's no double standards in Yahadus. We're at Rabbi. Now listen to this. Listen to this. What was the chet that he did? What was the chet that Moshe did? First of all, in this, they said, this is no place of water. Look, they said, there's no water over here. There's no water over here. Lo mokum zera. Mayim, there's no water to drink. They didn't understand that a sandstone, has moisture in it. You know, if you take the letter Sela, Samach Lamed Ayin, and you write it out, Samach Lamed Ayin, you know the middle letters is Mayim. Samach, the middle letter is Mem. Lamed, the middle letter is Mem. Ayin, the middle letter is Yud. That's right. Mayim is inside the Sela. Hashem brought, he said, Hotseisi lohem mayim min hasela. In the middle of the word Sela is mayim. Like it says early in the Torah, he's going to take the Leviim mitoch b'nei Yisrael, from the middle of b'nei Yisrael. If you write out the word Yisrael, the middle letters is Leviim. Yisrael, Yud, Yud Vav Dalid. Shin, Shin, Yud, Nun. Reish, Reish, Aleph, Shin. Aleph, Aleph, Lamed, Fei. Yisrael. Lamed, Lamed, Mem, Dal, Lamed. The middle letters is Leviim. Take Leviim and Toch B'nai Yisrael. This is the Vilna Gaon's, the middle letters. So now let's see what Moshe Rabbeinu, what kind of error did he do? He did one of 10 averas. Wow. There's a big machlokas. What exactly did he do? He got angry. He called them rebels. He hit the rock. Their fault. It was his fault. After 20, Mayim Beis HaSheva understands that after 40 years, it gets to you. Disrespectful people and chutzpahniks and rebels and not trusting people. It eventually wears you down. There's a machlokas between the Eben Ezra, Or HaChaim, Kli Yokar, Rambam, Sefer Hikarim. What exactly was the chet? Machlokas, what was Moshe's chet? Was it he hit the rock and didn't speak to it? Was it he lost the kavanah, he lost his temper because he called them rebels? Was it that he hit it twice, but one time would have been all right? Was it that they didn't say Shira when the water came out? They didn't say Shira, praise God, and then that water came out of a rock? Was it because he said, Shimon or Hamorim, listen to me, you rebels, you? He called the children of Avin Yosef rebels? Yeah, I know they're rebels, but you're the teacher, you're the leader. You don't label them. You don't call a kid in the class, you rotten thing, you. That's just not the way you do it. Rambam says he got angry at the community. Rabbi Hananel said, you think we can produce water? He shouldn't have said we. Mara to me. You think Hashem can produce water? Of course he can from anywhere. He said we instead of Hashem. You think Hashem can get from Hasel Hazeh any rock? It got to be a special rock. Miriam's rock. Can't do it from any rock. Why did they mispalel for rain, for water, before the people came to them and complained? Many different things. What was Moshe's chet? So Hashem said, you don't believe me. Yando Hemantabi. Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't believe in God. One chet, and you're not a believer? Well, Rabbi said, let me tell you, if something is 99% MS, it's 100% sheker. Torah works like math, lahavdil. It can't be almost correct. It has to equal, well, the equal equation sign is in the middle. 2x minus 17 equals 44. It has to be exact, not almost. No, 2 times 3 is 6, not 5.99999 or 6.0001. No, it's 6, period. If it's not 100% correct, it's wrong. So he said to Moshe, why don't you believe in me? I'm ashamed of you. Moshe Rabbeinu. Wow. It's like a diamond, 2-carat diamond that's perfect, $10,000, right? Then you look at it with a loop and you see on the bottom, in the bottom facets, 1 or 2 carbon spots. Oh, not anymore $8,000 or $10,000 or $12,000. It's only worth $1,400 because it's not perfect. It's only 2 little black marks on the bottom. I know. That's what makes the difference. It's like you're wearing a suit and you have a little black mark over here. How can you say the suit is ruined? Yes, if it's a white tuxedo and you have a black mark here, it's over. Done. Moshe was perfect. And Aaron, 1 chet ruins it. 1 chet ruins it. They were so perfect. He says to them, you don't believe in me anymore? You hit the rock? You don't believe in me? To make a public Kiddush Hashem. Yes, water came out, and it was a tremendous Kiddush Hashem, but it could have been 1,000 times greater by not touching the rock. And the water still came out. That would have been a greater Kiddush Hashem. Because they're used to big mitzvahs of Nisim. Lachain, therefore, he swore. Lo Sabiu, you're not going to bring this nation, El Horis, Ashir no saying to them that I'm giving to them now. When the Asid Lavo, Mashiach comes, you will come with them. But now, no. Heima Memoriva, these are the waters of strife, the fight. Ashir Rov B'nai Yisrael, Ravu, Rabo, because of the Rebbe, they made the Rebbe angry. Ravu, Rabo, they made the Moshe angry. B'nai Yisrael, Es Hashem, Yikadesh Bom, and God sanctifies his name there by letting Moshe not get away with anything. Okay, Rabbi Side, we're finished our shir on Chukas. If you want to hear the daily shir, you go to Kol Haloshon. Every single day you go to Kol Haloshon, and every single day I have a new shir over there, and you know the number all over the United States. I'm going to tell you the number. The number of Kol Haloshon, I'm sure you know. There's about 100 Magi Day shir, but if you want to get me, you go to 646-977-7900, and as soon as the guy starts talking, you dial 111, that means 11101, and you get me, and every single day is a new shir. I got about 530 shiurim already. A voice says, like, gesund and stark, have a good week.